I am Anna Livermore from V.Mora. Thank you for joining us today. We are going over how to prepare for a trade show in 7 days, which is great timing because next week in LA, there will be 3 trade shows going on. We have the fabric shows, though that will be happening next week. We have the LA textile show and we have the textile show. So yes, all their names are pretty similar, but they are 3 different shows in 3 different locations. If you can make it to LA, amazing. It's a great place to source your fabrics. They'll have international vendors, they'll have local vendors. All of the trade shows will have workshops and seminars. So if you can get there, amazing. We will be there. I will be there. I'm speaking. You can see that information on the Instagram or in our mailers, but I'm speaking both Wednesday and Thursday. And I'll have that information on my Instagrams. So yes, if you can get there next week, we will see you. But I wanted to go over how you can prepare yourself for these fabric shows so you come off professionally, you're not intimidated or afraid, you have the answers to the questions that are needed, and these fabric vendors will take you seriously and want to work with you. So we've broken it down into simple steps, what you can do each day in preparation. And here we go. So on day 1, what you want to do is just get an overall broad view of the fabric shows. Where are you going? Are there any vendors that you want to see? They'll all have vendor lists. Are there people you definitely want to hit? Make a list. They will have booth numbers there. So you can kind of map out your day. It'll make it feel a little bit less overwhelming when you go. The shows are a lot smaller than they were, say, like pre-COVID. They used to be gigantic. You'd walk in and be like this huge trade show, and like it felt really intimidating. They are not as large as they used to be, so they shouldn't be as intimidating, but they still can be if it's your first show and you don't know, who to talk to, and it can be a little intimidating. So getting over like the general landscape of these shows, what vendors you definitely want to hit, and spending some time on the vendor list will be helpful. There is, I always say, like when you go to a show, walk the whole show first, just like window shop, up and down all the aisles, take notes of who you want to come back to, but get it out of the way where you're like, okay, I've seen the show. Because prior to that, you could be talking to someone and you're not quite ready to make an order because you're like, what is on the other side of the show? Maybe I'll find another button vendor. Like you're going to be thinking like, what am I missing out on, right? So if you go to the show, walk the whole show up and down the aisles, just like soak it all in. Do it with just the intention of like seeing what booths are there. That way you're like, okay, I saw the entire show. Then go back and hit those booths specifically for what you're looking for. And again, vendor lists are always on the websites, so you can see who's going to be at the shows. You can plan what seminars that you want to hit, what times, where they're at. So day 1 is just like getting a general feeling of what the trade show is, what you want to see, and having a general plan. The next day 2, what I want you to do is set up a UPS account or a FedEx account. This makes it so much easier for vendors. So the process, you're going to go to these shows and you're going to ask for swatches. And the swatches, usually vendors will give the first 10 at least for free. They might have a charge of like $1 or $2 per swatch, whatever it is. It's either free or a minimal cost to have swatches. Now, what's not free is the shipping. So you can't expect the vendors to send out thousands of swatches and pay for all the shipping. They'd be like horribly in the hole in debt and it wouldn't be worth it to them. Sorry, let me drink some water. Again, I'm talking so fast and like I just get out of breath because I want to fit it all in. So yeah, if you have this UPS account or FedEx number ready, when you fill out a PO, and we'll get to that later, but when you fill out the PO of what swatches you want to order, they're going to ask you for this shipping number. It just makes it so much easier. You're going to get your samples shipped quicker because all they have to do is then package up the swatches and they use your shipping number and it's out the door. You know, if you don't have a shipping number, then they have to invoice you for the shipping. They have to find the shipping amount, get the money from you. It's like a big, huge pain in the butt for the vendors. And as far as the swatches go, like you really want to make that as simple as possible because that's, you know, they're not profiting off of sending you swatches. So have your UPS or your FedEx account ready. You can go to their websites. It's really easy to set up. Shouldn't take any time at all. But that would be my daily task for day 2 in preparing for a fabric show. All right, day 3. This is, you know, you should have knowledge of this prior, but this is the day more of like organizing what fabrics you're looking for. Know the basics. Know the basics between knits and wovens. Know the basics of weights of fabrics, widths of fabrics. What's the difference between a sample order minimum and a production order minimum? Jay Abertman has a really great video. Him and I did it together. So you can dig it up on YouTube. If you email him, it's actually in the signature of his email, jay@thesourcingdistrict.com. But yeah, that video will run you through like the basics of what fabrics are, what contents are, what to look for, what you should be looking for. Now, if you have swatches, like if you were to bring this fabric to the fabric show and say, hey, this is the fabric I want, a vendor is going to tell you like, well, this print was made for Alice and Olivia. I think that's who I'm wearing, but this print was made for them. We can't copy it, but you can have something similar. It's a silk chiffon, so they'll show you the silk chiffons. So the natural fibers are easier to match because it's like silk or oh my gosh, silk or cottons, like things like that are 100% are easier to match. When you get into the blends and you're like, I have this stretch fabric, I don't have anything close, but I have this t-shirt. I can't tell you the amount of times someone will give me a t-shirt and be like, I want this fabric. And it's, I don't want to say impossible, but pretty close to impossible to be like, oh, okay, here's that fabric. We have it. Even if the content is the same, like it's 95 cotton, 5% poly, and well, I guess I didn't leave room for a 1% elastane or whatever, but you get the point. Like even if it's the same blend, it can feel differently depending on the quality of the yarns or how it was knit or the machines, like, or the dye process. Like there's a million different things. So if you get really caught up on like, this is the specific blended fabric I want and only this, you are going to go into that show and leave frustrated. But what you can do is like, hey, I really like this t-shirt. I like how it feels. It's soft, it drapes. I like how it feels on my hand. When I wear it, it like has a little bit of structure. So like learn what you like about the fabric and be able to describe that versus this is the exact fabric I want. Find this fabric because that is impossible. Pretty much. I don't want to say impossible. That's pretty black and white, but it's really challenging. So yeah, know what you're looking for. Have, you know, general ideas of your sketches, what type of product you're doing, because that will help a fabric vendor. If you're like, oh, well, I'm making children's wear, then that's going to tell them what type of fabrics to lead you to. I'm making uniforms. Again, like certain fabrics make uniforms because you need the durability. So having that information ready for the vendors is really helpful. You can create a mood board for your color story. again, that gets into like custom colors and minimums, things like that can be challenging. And I think I have time to get into it. So when you're working in small minimums, you are limited to what is readily available because it's going to be hard to meet the minimums to make anything custom. That means custom prints, custom colors, custom anything. You have to meet a minimum for that yardage. And if you're only doing a small production, it doesn't make sense. And maybe, you don't have the budget for it. So you're going to be limited to what's available in small quantities. Prints can be difficult. There are vendors that have beautiful prints. Gordon Fabrics is one of them, and they're going to be at the textile show in LA. But they have beautiful prints, but they have the stock that they have, and then when that print is out, it's out. So you've got to communicate with them. If you're ordering swatches and then 6 months later you go to do production, they may or may not have that fabric. So being aware of what the continuity is with these fabrics, that's the word that's used, the continuity of these fabrics is really important, because if you get swatches and then 6 months later you go and you expect them to have the same fabrics, they may or may not have them. So talk to them if that's in the beginning, like what's the continuity. So yes, knowing what you're looking for, having knowledge of fabrics is really, really helpful. And now if you're just going to the show to kind of learn fabrics, that's a different story. Don't worry about it. Go touch and feel and be like, oh, what is in this fabric? Why do I like this fabric? But as far as like expecting a fabric vendor to be able to tell you what you want, that's up to you. So if you're not quite at the stage where you're going to be placing orders and having swatches and sample fabric ordered, then, you can go kind of more with a blank slate and learn from the show what type of fabrics you like and what type of fabrics you maybe want to use, what prints are available, things like that. So it's not as much pressure if you're not looking to like place sample fabric orders. Like if you're going to this show and you're planning on launching in fall, like you have to have all your fabric ordered already, basically. So it depends on what stage in the game you are, but you want to have the general knowledge about fabrics before you go, because the fabric vendors, they're going to be busy and they don't always have the time to like run you through these items. And again, that video that I did with Jay on our YouTube, also at the signature of his email, jay@thesortingdistrict.com, is a good place to start. Okay, day 4. I mentioned it before briefly, the PO. So many designers, the fabric vendors will say, now at the show, they have like a PO that you can fill out while you're there. PO stands for purchase order. But you can't just email them a week later and say like, hey, I want to order 10 yards of the white fabric T4475. They're going to say, hey, send us a PO. So it is on your responsibility to have a PO template and fill it out and then send it to them. And that PO template, I believe we have a template that you can buy off of our website. You can always reach out to us and have us you can purchase our PO template. All of our clients get the templates included with working with us. But if you're on your own, you want to just make sure that you know what a purchase order is and that you're able to place that template. I think like Google Docs has templates too that may or may not be specific to the fashion industry, but it'll give you a general idea of what you're ordering or what a PO looks like. So you would write out the PO and send it to them in the attachment of like, hey, I wanted to place an order. Please see PO attached. So if you can be ready with a PO, I know for a fact, a lot of fabric vendors get very frustrated when they say, yeah, send a PO. And the designer's like, what's a PO? So knowing what a PO is and having a template will help you look much more professional. Day 5 is networking and communication, think about the questions that you want to ask the vendors. And if you don't know what those are, I'm going to give you some tips. But number one is, what is your minimum sample order? What is your minimum production order? Because while they could have a 5-yard minimum for sample order, it could be a bolt minimum for production, which is about 100, depending on the thickness of the fabric, but it's around 100 yards. So you want to know the minimums of both sample and production orders. What is the continuity? What is the cost? And where's the fabric shipping from? Because it could be, hey, this fabric is $250 a yard, but it's shipping from Italy, and shipping is going to be $5,000. So knowing where the fabric is shipping from. Those are just some examples of questions that you'll want to ask these vendors. But being able to have these kind of questions prepared will help in like maybe the nervousness of like, what do I say? What do I ask? Things like that. So sitting down and writing down the questions that you want to ask the vendors if you're interested in working with them will be helpful. It could also be like a little intro of like what you're looking for, what your product is, when you're thinking about launching, and then the list of questions. So being prepared. Also for networking, you'll want to, see if there are any cocktail events or if there's anything going on at the shows that you want to attend. I hate the word networking, but when it comes down to it and I show up, I always end up having a lot of fun and like making a connection with someone. So go into these shows knowing that while it's not all about yes or no, now or never, it's about building a network of people. It could be other designers, it could be fabric vendors, whatever it is, like this, the network will help you grow. So going in there with the intention of finding people for that network. All right, so day 6, final preparations and checklists. So you'll want to have business cards, possibly some sketches of what you're doing, examples of any fabrics that you like. You'll want to get all of that rounded up. If you don't have a business card, they're very easy to make. You can have them made locally at Staples, just something that has your name, your email, and your phone number if you want to include it. But something with your information will make it a lot easier and quicker when you're meeting people to exchange information. So just like do your final prep, make sure that you have everything ready, that you're going to be bringing to the show. That's day 6. And then day 7 is just bringing it all together. Reviewing everything, making sure you have everything ready to go, knowing what you're looking for. Again, go back and maybe create a more solid schedule now that you have a plan. Just taking the day to prepare yourself and round everything up and get ready for this fabric show. It doesn't have to be intimidating. I remember the first fabric show that I went to was the LA Textile Show, and I was scared out of my mind. It was huge. I didn't know how to talk to people. I was just feeling a little bit shy. I sat in at the seminars, and I remember leaving the seminars feeling worse than how I went in, because I don't know, at the time it was just like, this is really hard. You're never going to be able to do it. Have all of this ready, blah, 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 blah. And I just felt it was like piling on to like the overwhelm I was already feeling. So I always make it a point to try and break it down so it's simple. You can do this. People do it every day. You're going to be fine. Take little steps, absorb information, move forward. So you're going to be fine. It's going to be great. You can always come to our booth if you're feeling, a little bit intimidated. You can tell me what you're looking for, and I can take you over to one of the vendors and introduce you to them. I'm always willing to help out like that. So yes, fabric shows are an essential part. They're really like the only place that you can go to like feel as many fabrics in one area. Even the garment district in LA and in New York, it's not the same as it used to be. You're going to get the biggest bang out of your buck for going to these fabric shows, especially since there's 3 next week in LA. Come, be there. It'll be amazing. Let's see. I want to just make sure I covered everything. Yeah, I'd say the most important part is like have knowledge of the fabrics you're looking for. Have that UPS account ready and know what a PO is, and then know the questions that you want to ask. But I guess if you like forget to ask the questions, you can always follow up with an email. I think that those would be the most important. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, you can ask me questions. You can always set up a 20-minute strategy session with myself if you want to go over things one-on-one. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Instagram for more information. We keep it super informative. I am taking a break from the lives for a little while. I don't know if you guys can see, but let's see. Can you see? I'm on baby watch. So we are going to be having a second baby, and then I'm going to go on maternity. So we're going to be taking a break from the lives, but we'll still keep short clips, super fun, informative videos to keep you guys informed with whatever you need. And we will be back in some form after my maternity leave. But if you have any questions, or like you want me to do a video on anything specific, please let me know. We're always looking for ideas for what you guys are looking for, and it would be great to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully we'll see you all at the show next week, actually. Come visit our booth at the LA Textile Show and at the Textile Show. We'll be there. All right.